In San Jose, California, stands one of the largest and most bizarre private residences in the United States.
The FBI just confirmed the Winchester House was hiding something, and it's horrifying. Federal agents called to a sealed wall inside one of America's most mysterious buildings. A discovery so unsettling that it finally explained everything. The staircases that climb into ceilings, the doors that open to 40-foot drops, the 36 years of construction that never once stopped.
Well, the Winchester Mystery House is a very special place. It was built with no master plan, but there are a lot of architectural oddities that remain a mystery as to why they're here.
People have toured this house for a century, sensing that something was deeply wrong here. Something beyond ghost stories and Victorian eccentricity. And now, for the first time, there's an official answer. What investigators found hidden inside those walls didn't just shock them. It reframed the entire story of Sarah Winchester and why she really built this place. This is what they confirmed. And once you hear it, you won't be able to unsee it. The woman behind the walls, Sarah Lockwood Pardee, was born in 1839 in New Haven, Connecticut. People who knew her well called her Sally. She was educated, cultured, fluent in 4 languages, and accomplished on 3 musical instruments. In September of 1862, at age 23, she married William Wirt Winchester, the only son of Oliver Winchester, who had founded the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, the gun that won the West. For 4 years, the young couple was genuinely happy. They built a home together on Prospect Hill in New Haven. They developed a shared passion for architecture and design. Sarah studied real estate investment and financial strategy alongside William and her father-in-law. And on June 15, 1866, she gave birth to a baby girl they named Annie Pardee Winchester. Annie lived 43 days. She died from marasmus, a wasting disease of infancy that doctors in 1866 had no way to treat. Sarah withdrew from society for nearly a year. The grief never fully lifted. Then, between the fall of 1880 and spring of 1881, everything collapsed again. Sarah's mother died. William's father, Oliver, died. And on March 7, 1881, William Winchester himself died of tuberculosis. He was 43 years old. At 41, Sarah Winchester became one of the wealthiest women in America. She inherited roughly $20 million, about $638 million in today's money, plus a 50% stake in the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, generating $1,000 a day in income, tax-free. She would never want for anything material again, except the people she had lost. Those couldn't be bought back. In 1885, Sarah's doctor recommended she move to a warmer, drier climate to help manage the rheumatoid arthritis that was beginning to affect her hands and mobility. She had traveled to San Francisco with William in the 1870s and carried happy memories of California. There were sisters she could invite to join her, and there was nothing left for her in Connecticut except ghosts in every room of the Prospect Hill house. So, Sarah Winchester moved west. And that's where the story, the real one, not the one the brochures sell, truly begins. The legend they invented. In 1886, a Winchester Company agent named Edward Rambo showed her properties in the Santa Clara Valley near San Jose. She settled on a 45-acre ranch with a modest 8-room farmhouse. The area reminded her of Llanada Alva in Spain's Basque Country, a place she and William had visited together. She named the property Llanada Villa and invited her sisters to live nearby. And then she started building. Here's where the legend usually inserts a Boston medium named Adam Coons. According to the story repeated in every tour guide script and Halloween special since 1923, a grief-stricken Sarah consulted this spiritualist who told her the Winchester family was cursed, haunted by the spirits of everyone killed by Winchester rifles. The only way to appease these angry ghosts was to move west and build a house for them. And she must never stop building, because the day construction ceased would be the day she died. It's a compelling story. It's been in brochures and articles since. The house opened to the public in 1923. The 2018 film, Winchester with Helen Mirren, built its entire premise around it. Millions of people believe it as fact. There's just one problem. Adam Coons never existed. The medium story appears to have been invented by author Susie Smith in her 1967 book, Prominent American Ghosts. Smith claimed Sarah visited a Boston medium who delivered the curse and the building instructions. But when historians actually dug into this claim, they found nothing. Not a record, not a listing, not a trace. Mary Jo Ignofo spent years tracking this down. She's the historian who wrote the definitive biography of Sarah Winchester, captive of the labyrinth, Sarah L. Winchester, heiress to the rifle fortune. And she didn't find the Adam Coon story buried in an archive. She found its absence. She searched through issues of Banner of Light, the leading spiritualist periodical of the time. She combed Boston City directories that listed every active medium of the era. No Adam Coons, no variation of the name, nothing. Ignofo explains that while it's entirely plausible Sarah might have consulted a spiritualist, the practice was common among wealthy women of her era. There is no evidence she ever did. The story was fabricated decades after Sarah's death and has been passed down as documented fact ever since. Nobody talks about this part. The haunted house myth wasn't discovered, it was manufactured, and the people selling you the ghost tour know it. If you want to keep pulling apart the stories history decided to tell instead of the truth, make sure you're subscribed. This channel goes where the official tour guide script stops. What the house actually tells us. So, if it wasn't spirits, why did Sarah Winchester spend 36 years building and rebuilding? Why create a home with 160 rooms, 40 staircases, 47 fireplaces, 2,000 doors, and 10,000 windows? The answer is simpler and more human than vengeful spirits. Sarah Winchester was grieving. She was wealthy beyond measure and utterly alone. She had time, money, and a genuine passion for architecture and design that she had developed alongside her husband. And she had severe rheumatoid arthritis that was getting progressively worse as she aged. Construction was something she could control when everything else in her life had spun far beyond her grasp. And this is where it gets strange, because the house isn't random. If you actually look at the property records and worker testimonies, a completely different picture emerges. Sarah designed rooms one by one, consulting with carpenters about what was structurally possible. The house included innovations cutting edge for the time. Indoor plumbing with hot and cold running water, a hot shower extraordinarily rare in private homes, central heating, 3 elevators, forced air heating, gas lights switchable from a central panel. Here's what the brochures leave out. Many of the so-called oddities were actually disability accommodations. Sarah stood 4 feet 10 inches tall. Her arthritis made every staircase a negotiation. The famous stairway with 44 steps that only rises 10 feet wasn't built to confuse ghosts. It was built so Sarah could reach the 2nd floor without her knees giving out. Each step was shallow enough that she could manage the ascent despite constant pain. The small doors, the low ceilings in certain rooms, Sarah was tiny. Why would she build soaring spaces she couldn't comfortably inhabit? The bells throughout the house weren't summoning spirits. They were a practical communication system for a woman whose arthritis made walking long corridors and pain-filled silence the alternative. Bruce Spoon understood this better than almost anyone. In 1951, Spoon was a graduate student at San Jose State, writing his master's thesis on Sarah Winchester. He did something no one had thought to do before. He went and found the people who had actually known her. He sat in their living rooms, notebook in hand, and listened. These were elderly men and women by then, workers who had swung hammers in Sarah's house, staff who had served her meals, neighbors who had watched her move through the property in her better years. Spoon recorded what they said. And what he found was not a haunted woman barricading herself against rifle ghosts. They described an employer who paid generously and never fired anyone during hard times. They described someone who sketched plans at a table, called Carpenters In, to discuss load-bearing walls and cared deeply about the result. Spoon's research identified 2 primary reasons for the constant building. It kept workers employed during economic downturns, and it was her artistic vision. Not the destination, but the act of creating itself. The idea that she built 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 38 years, is pure fiction. But there's one event that genuinely broke something in the house, and in Sarah herself. Earthquake that changed everything. On April 18, 1906, at 5:12 in the morning, the ground started shaking. The earthquake measured an estimated 7.9 and could be felt from Oregon to Los Angeles. In San Jose, Sarah's 7-story tower collapsed. Chimneys toppled. Whole sections were destroyed. There's a rumor Sarah was trapped in a bedroom and believed evil spirits caused the disaster. There's no evidence she was even at the San Jose property that morning. She owned several homes in California by then. But the earthquake is directly responsible for most of the architectural features visitors find so inexplicable today. Doors that now open to nothing. They once opened to balconies that collapsed, staircases that end abruptly in midair. They once led to upper floors that no longer exist, windows positioned at strange angles. They were in logical positions before the walls around them came down. Sarah had the rubble cleared, but she didn't try to reconstruct what was lost. She moved forward instead of recreating the past. Nobody talks about this either. The mystery of the Winchester House was largely created by a natural disaster, not a seance. After 1910, Sarah did very little new construction at the San Jose property. Her health was failing. She spent more time at her Atherton home, closer to her sister and her niece Daisy. On September 5th, 1922, Sarah Winchester died in her bedroom at Leonata Villa. But the earthquake is directly responsible for most of the architectural features visitors find so inexplicable today. Doors that now open to nothing. They once opened to balconies that collapsed, staircases that end abruptly in midair. They once led to upper floors that no longer exist, windows positioned at strange angles. They were in logical positions before the walls around them came down. Sarah had the rubble cleared, but she didn't try to reconstruct what was lost. She moved forward instead of recreating the past. Nobody talks about this either. The mystery of the Winchester House was largely created by a natural disaster, not a seance. After 1910, Sarah did very little new construction at the San Jose property. Her health was failing. She spent more time at her Atherton home, closer to her sister and her niece Daisy, who served as her personal secretary. On September 5th, 1922, Sarah Winchester died in her bedroom at Leonata Villa. She was 83 years old. The carpenter's hammers went silent for the first time in 36 years. And 5 months later, the Winchester Mystery House opened for public tours, which is when the real myth-making began. The hidden rooms and the FBI story. The property was purchased by the Brown family, who had experience running carnival attractions. They understood showmanship. A wealthy widow's unusual home was interesting, but a haunted mansion full of angry ghosts was sensational. Tour guides invented supernatural explanations for architectural features. The so-called seance room, where Sarah allegedly communicated with spirits every night, that was her gardener's bedroom. It happened to have 1 entrance and 3 exits, which made for compelling storytelling about trapped ghosts. The number 13 supposedly appears throughout the house because Sarah was consumed by superstition. But according to carpenter James Perkins, who worked on the property, most of the 13 hooks were added after Sarah's death. The 13 hooks in one room were installed roughly 5 years before he gave his interviews in the 1970s, not Sarah's doing at all. And this is where it gets strange, because now we have to talk about what those sealed rooms actually contained. In 1975, workers found a room sealed since the early 1900s. Inside, 2 chairs and a phonograph speaker. No bodies, no dark secrets. Just furniture Sarah had apparently built around and forgotten. In 2016, the preservation team opened an attic space boarded up. Since 1922, workers found a pump organ, a Victorian couch, a dress form, a sewing machine, and paintings. Personal items Sarah had sealed away and never returned to. The discovery brought the confirmed room count to 161. Historians were excited. The FBI was not called because the FBI was never called. Then, in April 2019, workers restoring one of the oldest rooms removed a section of wall and found a sealed envelope. It was addressed to Sarah Winchester, postmarked July 20th, 1894, and decorated with a picture of an elaborate stained glass window. The return address showed it came from the Pacific American Decorative Company in San Francisco. This is where Jim Wolfe's work becomes essential. Wolfe is an architectural historian who had spent years in British Columbia researching the stained glass windows at Craig Darroch Castle. He'd traced their origin, color palette, fabrication technique, the specific way the lead channels were structured, and concluded they were likely made by John Mallon's Pacific Glass Company in San Francisco. Then he noticed the same characteristics in photographs of the Winchester House windows. The styles matched, the technique matched, but there was no documentary proof. When word reached him that a sealed envelope from 1894 had been found inside a Winchester House wall, addressed to Sarah, decorated with a stained glass illustration, stamped with a San Francisco return address, Wolf understood immediately what he was looking at. Malin's company had been reincorporated as Pacific American Decorative Company in 1893. The envelope was the confirmation. The 90-year mystery of where Sarah Winchester commissioned her extraordinary windows was solved, not by a federal investigation, but by one historian quietly following glass. No FBI, no federal agents, no horror. So, where did that story actually come from? The lie that spread everywhere. Here's what actually happened. There are no credible sources for the FBI. Investigation claim? None. Search FBI press releases. Search official statements. Search San Jose news archives from every room discovery. Search the Winchester Mystery House's own press materials. Zero mentions of any federal involvement ever. What exists instead is a pattern anyone who spends time online will recognize immediately. Clickbait headlines take a real event, a sealed room, an old envelope, and attach FBI confirms to generate clicks. The house is already marketed as one of America's most haunted places. It's been called a mystery house since 1911, when the San Francisco Examiner first used that phrase. YouTube's algorithm rewards videos about unsolved mysteries and shocking revelations. Add FBI to a title, and people click. The videos contain no actual FBI footage, no official statements, just B-roll of the house, stock footage of agents, and speculation presented as fact. People share them. The claims spread. And suddenly everyone knows the FBI investigated the Winchester House and found something terrible. A modern urban legend manufactured in real time. It doesn't require a conspiracy. It just requires people who want mystery more than truth. But here's the catch. And this is the part that should actually horrify you. We didn't need to invent a federal investigation to make this story compelling. We had something better. We had the truth. One WOMA with 24,000 square feet picture. Sarah Winchester in the last decade of her life. She is in her 70s now. Her hands, always small, have been reshaped by rheumatoid arthritis. The knuckles enlarged, the joints stiff in the morning, the pain a constant presence she has learned to navigate the way you learn the layout of a dark house. She moves slowly. She has planned for this. The staircase beneath her feet has 44 steps that rise only 10 feet. Each one designed to be shallow enough that her knees can manage it without assistance. She built these stairs herself. She designed them with her own hands. Every morning, she climbs them. She passes the windows as she moves through the house. The extraordinary stained glass panels commissioned from John Malin's studio, their colors shifting with the California light. She passes doors she hasn't opened in years, rooms sealed after the earthquake because going back felt wrong. She passes the bells she installed so she could summon her staff without walking the full length of a corridor in pain. This is the house as Sarah Winchester actually lived in it, not a haunted labyrinth, not the construction of a guilt-consumed rifle widow. A home built entirely around the specific dimensions of one woman's grief and one woman's body. Mary Jo Ignafo, after years of archival research, described what Sarah's contemporaries actually remembered. The staff who stayed for decades, the workers she paid well and housed during downturns, the niece Daisy she left property to in her will, the $2 million she donated to tuberculosis research, almost certainly in memory of William. A paranoid woman doesn't retain the same employees for decades. A mad woman doesn't manage a fortune with enough sophistication to protect it across 40 years. Sarah Winchester spoke 4 languages. She was a skilled musician. She made shrewd financial investments. She remained mentally sharp until the morning she didn't wake up. She wasn't crazy. She was grieving, wealthy, in chronic physical pain, and passionate about architecture. That is not the same thing as insane, and we decided that wasn't enough. We needed the ghost. We needed the FBI. The truth of the house. The Winchester Mystery House isn't a monument to guilt or madness. It's a monument to grief, and to the strange, magnificent, deeply human ways we cope with loss when we have unlimited resources and nowhere left to go. In 1923, entrepreneurs recognized they could profit from her story and leaned hard into the supernatural. Those myths have only multiplied in the internet age, where every discovery becomes a conspiracy and every old house apparently needs an FBI investigation to feel interesting. The envelope found in 2019 did reveal something horrifying, just not what the viral videos claim. It revealed that we are so desperate for sensational explanations that we will invent federal investigations out of thin air, rather than sit with the truth of one woman's sorrow. We will fabricate a medium named Adam Coons. We will film B-roll over stock footage and call it confirmation. We will watch 24,000 square feet of grief and read it as madness. No FBI agents ever confirmed anything horrifying at the Winchester Mystery House. They never investigated. They were never called. They were never there. What the house actually contains is more heartbreaking than horrifying. It contains 36 years of relentless creative work by a woman trying to build something that mattered when everyone she loved was dead. It contains innovations and beauty and strangeness all woven together because Sarah Winchester wasn't following anyone else's rules. She was following her own vision, painful step by painful step, on staircases designed for knees that wouldn't cooperate anymore. The real horror isn't hidden in a sealed room or confirmed in a federal file. The real horror is simpler and closer than that. It's the story we chose to tell about her, and the story we buried to tell it. That's what the Winchester House has been hiding all along, and it's been sitting in plain sight the entire time if anyone cared to look past the myth and really see her. Drop in the comments right now. Do you think the ghost story matters, or does the truth hit harder? We read every single one.